Hello everyone and welcome to another video. This time it's INDYCAR Racing 2 on the PC, which was released by Papyrus in November 1995. I'll be running 5 laps at Elkhart Lake with the AI set to 100%, during which I will talk about how the cars feel to drive and also give some tips on how to get this working with modern hardware. As you can see in the top left, I'm running this with a Fanatec CSL Elite wheelbase and CSL Elite pedals with load cell braking, which really do add to the experience of this game. Since INDYCAR Racing 2 does not have force feedback support, I'm using a third-party program to send the force to the wheel, so at least it has some weight to it. If you're running an older Logitech wheel, you should be able to activate the center spring function within the profiler, which will do the same job. I'm running this game in DOSBox 0.74 with the version 1.02 patch of the game, which is not essential but does fix a few bugs from the original release. We're also running in high res mode, which is 640 by 480 at a smooth 30 frames a second with everything turned up to max. I'm not running with any mods, so the sounds, drivers and track graphics are all original. One thing you might notice about this game is that a lot of the drivers are fictional. Papyrus could not get the necessary licenses, so some big names like that year's champion Jacques Villeneuve are missing, and for similar reasons the opening round at Miami and the Indy 500 are missing too. However, from day one, INDYCAR Racing 2 has had a vibrant, active modding community, so you can get these drivers and circuits back to the game if you want. If you're interested, I recommend you head over to irc2.net for more. Let's skip this formation lap now and go to the start of the race. So coming out of the final corner, the end of the formation lap, we've got 5 laps to go. We're starting in plumb last position. Let's see how many places we can make up. And the green flag's waving and we're away. Squeezing past the 35 car between the pit wall there, heading down towards turn 1. We're going to take the inside line because the AI do brake quite unpredictably. Looks like we've managed to get past a few cars there, although some have come back round us on the outside. Down to turn 2, again we're just taking the inside line, being very careful under braking. Also being very careful not to touch any of the other cars because we will just spin off. Under the Texaco bridge, through the kink down towards turn 3. Braking quite early there, and the number 74 car has just got past us down the inside. Up the hill, I think we're going to be able to outbrake a few drivers into this tight left-hander here, and we do. Okay, through the next right-hander, not flat this time around on the first lap, but we should be able to take it flat later. And again, diving down the inside of 2 more cars. We're making up so many places here on this first lap. Through the carousel now, really high speed, thrilling corner. And we're right under the rear wing of the real-life Japanese driver, Matsushita. Through the kink, 185 miles an hour, not even a hint of a lift. We're in the toe. Hopefully we can outbrake him into this next turn, and yep, diving down the inside. He really braked quite early there. So before the first lap's even complete, we've made up 10 places. And I think we're going to be able to make up a few more before the end of the lap as well. Yeah, diving right down the inside there of the 66 car. And we're even out dragging the 55 up the hill. So first lap completed and we're already up to 19th from 31st position. Let's watch the speedo as we go on this pit straight. Yeah, up to 200 miles an hour just before the braking zone. 3rd gear for turn 1. Catching up another gaggle of cars so easily here. As I said, this game is set to 100% AI difficulty, but we're having no trouble passing any of them at this stage. So while that's continuing, let's just talk about the physics of this game. Well, compared to today's standards, they're a touch basic, but still surprisingly good for a 25-year-old title. The cars accelerate, brake and corner at roughly the same speed as they did in real life. As you saw earlier, we touched 200 miles an hour on the pit straight, which is roughly the same speed they were achieving in the real race in 1995. Just like modern sims, precise steering is pretty important. Too much steering angle in the turns and you'll start to scrub the fronts and induce understeer. Equally, if you throw the car into the turns like a rally car, you'll be spinning off into the barrier. If you're running with realistic damage on, your race will be over instantly. The cars are very fragile and the smallest contact will seriously damage them. So my preference is to run this with the damage off, especially because the AI can be a little erratic and unpredictable at times, especially under braking. One downside about the physics, the cars seem to have some kind of traction control and ABS in place at all times. You can mash the throttle coming out of the corners and you'll never spin up the rears. Equally, you can stomp on the brakes and you'll never lock these up either. That's not to say you can't spin by pushing too hard. If you brake too deep into a corner, you're guaranteed to lose control on turn-in. The same can be said for dropping a rear wheel on the grass at the corner entry, although the grass itself mainly provides resistance, like a sand trap, rather than just acting as a slippery surface. Car setups are equally important. Running too low downforce on the rear wing will have a dramatic effect on your ability to stay on the track in high-speed corners. Personally, I prefer to give the car an understeery rather than an oversteery setup, with the brake bias all the way to the front. Unfortunately, with no force feedback, we only have visual and audio clues to tell us what the car is doing. In moments of oversteer, the tyres act like ice cubes on a frozen lake. The second you lose control, you'll never ever save it. Whereas with understeer, you can hear the front tyres squeal, and you know you need to slow down a little. Most of the time, you can get away with using the default setups with a couple of clicks extra on the rear wing, else you might find them a little loose. However, you can still win races against the AI this way. On the dash, just above the fuel gauge, we see 3 bars, the top 2 being front and rear anti-roll bars, the third being the brake bias. You can change these in car, and I recommend mapping them to your steering wheel if you have enough buttons, so you can manipulate them during the race. Personally, I don't feel too much difference in the handling, even when making extreme changes, but I haven't really played this for long enough yet to understand the differences. I'm sure on oval circuits, at full race distance, it will change the feel of the car as you start to wear down the tyres and use up fuel. Also on the dash is the rev counter, and this is the only racing game I can think of where you have to manage the revs, else you'll blow the engine. Keeping it below 15,000 RPM is a must. In general, this game feels great, and anyone who plays modern sims like R-Factor 2 and Assetto Corsa should feel right at home on this game. The driving techniques are really not that dissimilar, and if you can get over the pixelated graphics and the dodgy AI, this is actually a really fun game to play. Now, a little more about my setup for this game. I'm running my Fanatec wheel with 440 degrees of rotation and the spring set to 60%. In order to get the fake spring effect, I found a piece of software made by iRacing called Wheel Check. I will put a link in the description below, and in the comment section I'll tell you exactly what settings you need. In the game's options, you should set the steering to linear, otherwise you'll have a massive dead zone and the wheel will feel very unresponsive. If you watch the caption, I generally don't turn the wheel more than about 90 degrees either way, which is relatively true to life. If you know how to use DOSBox, this is one of the easier titles to set up. If you need a more detailed description, please leave a comment below and I'll make another video showing just how I set up this game. So for the final lap or so, let's just watch without any talking, and if you like the kind of content in this video, please comment below and don't forget to like and subscribe.